Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin tonight, I want you to look around this room. Each one of you came here in a particular state of consciousness. Some of you arrived feeling hopeful, others perhaps skeptical. Some are eager, others cautious. And each of these states, every single one, is about to determine what you take away from our time together this evening. You see, I didn't choose tonight's topic randomly. I chose it because it contains the master key to everything you've ever desired. Tonight I want to share with you one of the most profound truths you will ever encounter. A truth that, when understood and applied, will revolutionize your entire existence. I want to speak to you about states of consciousness. Now let me begin with this fundamental principle. And I want you to write this down. You are in a state. You always will be in a state. The moment you know what state you are in, you can get out of it. A lady came to me just last week. Let me tell you her story because it illustrates perfectly what I'm about to share with you. She said, "Neville, I've been trying to manifest a loving relationship for 3 years. I've done everything, visualized, affirmed, prayed, but nothing works. What am I doing wrong?" I said to her, "My dear, you're not doing anything wrong. You're simply living in the wrong state." You see, she was living in the state of wanting love, the state of lacking love, the state of trying to get love. And the universe, being the faithful mirror that it is, kept reflecting back to her exactly that: more wanting, more lacking, more trying. Listen carefully to what I'm telling you. At every moment of your existence, right now, as you sit here listening to these words, you are in a state of consciousness. You are occupying a particular state, a specific way of being, feeling, and perceiving. This state, my friends, determines everything you experience, how you feel, what you think, what you expect, and ultimately, mark this well, what manifests in your world. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the tension, even though no one said a word? Have you ever met someone and instantly felt drawn to them? Or perhaps repelled without knowing why? That, my friends, is consciousness recognizing consciousness. That is state recognizing state. Most people, I tell you, live their entire lives without ever recognizing that they are constantly moving between different states of consciousness. They are like actors changing costumes between scenes of a play they don't even realize they're performing in. But you tonight, you are going to understand something that will set you free forever. Understanding states of consciousness is perhaps the most practical and transformative knowledge you can acquire. It is the difference, I tell you, between being tossed around by life's circumstances and becoming the conscious director of your own experience. When you truly grasp what it means to be in a state, and more importantly, how to deliberately choose and maintain the states that serve you, you gain access to a level of personal power that most people never even know exists. I remember a gentleman who attended my lectures years ago. He was a struggling artist, living in a tiny apartment, barely able to pay his rent. But one evening, something clicked. He understood what I was teaching about states. Instead of continuing to live in the state of the struggling artist, he began to live in the state of the successful, celebrated artist. Within 6 months, a gallery owner discovered his work. He had his first solo show, and collectors began buying his paintings. Did his circumstances change his state? No. His state changed his circumstances. As within, so without. This is the law. Now think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever noticed, and I know you have, how some days you feel confident, capable, and optimistic, and everything seems to flow effortlessly? The coffee tastes better. People smile at you, doors literally open for you, opportunities appear, problems resolve themselves with ease. Then there are other days when you feel uncertain, worried, or frustrated, and it seems like everything goes wrong. Traffic is heavier. People are more difficult. Even your favorite restaurant seems to have lost its charm. Obstacles appear everywhere you turn. What happened? Did the external circumstances change first? Did the world suddenly decide to treat you differently? No, you did. You shifted from one state of consciousness to another, and your world shifted to match. This is not coincidence, my friends. This is not random. This is the fundamental law of consciousness in action. The very law that Moses spoke of when he declared, "I am that I am." Think about this deeply. When Moses stood before the burning bush and asked God for his name, the answer came back, "I am that I am, not I was or I will be, but I am." Present tense. Eternal now. Whatever you place after I am, you become I am broke. And so you are. I am sick. And so you are. I am blessed. And so you are. I am is the creative power of the universe, and it's operating through you right now. Your state of consciousness is the broadcaster, and your external world is the receiver. Whatever frequency you're broadcasting, whatever state you're in, the world around you must tune in to match that frequency. It has no choice in the matter. As I have told you many times before, consciousness is the only reality, and everything else is its shadow. But what exactly is a state of consciousness? Let me be very clear about this, because this understanding will change your life. It is much more than just a mood or a temporary feeling. A state is a complete configuration of your inner being. Your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, expectations, and self-concept all aligned in a particular pattern. When you're in the state of being loved, for example, you don't just feel good, you think the thoughts that a beloved person thinks. You carry yourself the way a beloved person carries themselves. You expect the treatment that a beloved person expects, and you assume that love is natural and normal in your life. You don't question whether you're lovable. That thought doesn't even occur to you. Love flows to you as naturally as water flows downhill. You see, states are like different radio stations, each broadcasting on its own frequency. Right now, there are hundreds of radio signals passing through this very room. Jazz, classical, rock, news, talk shows, all broadcasting simultaneously. But you only hear the one you're tuned into. The same is true with consciousness. When you're tuned into the lack station, you hear lack everywhere. Not enough money, not enough time, not enough love, not enough opportunity. Every song on that station is about what's missing. When you're tuned into the abundance station, you hear abundance everywhere. Possibilities, resources, connections, solutions. Every song is about what's available, what's possible, what's flowing toward you. The remarkable thing is that both stations are broadcasting simultaneously. The abundance is there right now. The love is there right now. The opportunities are there right now. The only difference is which station you're tuned into. And you, my friends, you are the one holding the dial. Now here is where most people go astray. And I want you to listen to this very carefully. Most people believe that they feel a certain way because of what's happening in their life. They think their state of consciousness is the result of their circumstances. I'm worried because my business is struggling. I'm lonely because I don't have a partner. I'm frustrated because people don't understand me. I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll feel confident when I lose weight. I'll be at peace when my problems are solved. But this is backwards thinking. This is the great illusion that keeps people trapped in cycles of limitation and struggle. The truth, I tell you, is exactly the opposite. Your circumstances are the result of your state of consciousness. Your business is struggling because you've been in the state of struggle. You don't have a partner because you've been in the state of loneliness. People don't understand you because you've been in the state of feeling misunderstood. Let me tell you about a woman who came to see me. She was desperate to find a husband. She was 35, had been dating for years, and every relationship ended in disappointment. She said, "Neville, what's wrong with me? Why can't I find love?" I said, "Tell me how you prepare for dates." She said, "Well, I spend hours getting ready, trying to look perfect, wondering if you'll like me, hoping I won't say something wrong, praying that this will finally be the one." Do you see the state she was living in? The state of desperate need, of not being enough, of hoping and praying and trying. And every man she met felt that energy and responded accordingly, either by running away or by treating her as someone who wasn't quite enough. I told her, "Tonight I want you to do something different. Before your next date, I want you to sit quietly and imagine you're already the beloved wife of a wonderful man. Feel how secure you feel in his love. Feel how cherished and adored you are. Feel how natural and easy love is in your life. Go on your date from that state." She did. And you know what happened? She was relaxed, confident, playful. She wasn't trying to get anything. She was already full. The man felt completely different energy from her and responded completely differently. They were engaged within 6 months. This reversal of cause and effect is perhaps the most difficult concept for people to accept, because it challenges everything they've been taught about how life works. We've been conditioned, you see, to believe that the external world is solid, fixed, and independent of our inner experience. We've been taught that we must adapt our feelings to match our circumstances. We wait for conditions to change before we allow ourselves to feel different. But I tell you tonight, and I want you to really hear this, consciousness is the only reality. And all external circumstances are simply consciousness made manifest. Change your state of consciousness, and your circumstances must change to match. This is not theory. This is law, as absolute and reliable as the law of gravity. The beautiful thing about understanding states, and this should fill you with tremendous hope, is that it puts you back in the driver's seat of your life. No longer do you have to wait for circumstances to change in order to feel different. No longer do you have to be at the mercy of what other people do or don't do. No longer do you have to let external conditions dictate your inner experience. You can choose your state first and let your external world reorganize itself to match. Think about this for a moment. Right now, in this very moment, you could choose to be in the state of gratitude. You could choose to be in the state of love. You could choose to be in the state of abundance. You could choose to be in the state of perfect health, not because your outer circumstances warrant it, but because you are the operant power. You are consciousness itself, temporarily forgetting its own power. But let me be very clear about something, because this is where many people stumble. Choosing a state is different from trying to feel something. When people first learn about states of consciousness, they often make the mistake of trying to force themselves into a different state through willpower or positive thinking. They grit their teeth and try to convince themselves they feel confident when they feel scared, or they try to paste a smile on their face when they feel sad. This approach rarely works because it's working from the surface instead of the depth. It's like trying to change the image in a mirror by working on the mirror instead of changing what's standing in front of it. The mirror has no choice but to reflect what's before it. Your outer world has no choice but to reflect your inner state. True state change happens at the level of assumption, at the level of what you take to be true about yourself and your world. When you're in the state of being wealthy, you don't just think positive thoughts about money. You don't affirm, I am rich, while feeling poor inside. You assume abundance is normal for you. You expect good things to flow into your life. You feel secure about your resources. You think from wealth rather than about wealth. You're not trying to convince yourself of anything. You simply know that prosperity is your natural condition. Let me give you a practical example. I once knew a man who wanted to be a successful writer. For years he struggled, sending out manuscripts and receiving rejection after rejection. He was living in the state of the unsuccessful writer, the struggling writer, the writer who might never make it. One day he decided to change his state. Instead of living as the struggling writer, he began to live as the successful writer. How does a successful writer feel when he wakes up, confident about his craft? How does he sit at his desk, with authority and purpose? How does he think about his work, as valuable as something the world wants to read? He began to live from this state completely. When friends asked about his writing, he didn't complain about rejections. He spoke about his work with the confidence of someone whose success was assured. He dressed differently, carried himself differently, even organized his workspace like a successful author would. Within a year, everything changed. Publishers who had previously rejected him began accepting his work. Opportunities appeared that he had never imagined. His outer world had no choice but to conform to the inner state he was consistently maintaining. And here's something fascinating. States are self-reinforcing. When you're in a particular state, you tend to think thoughts, speak words, and take actions that strengthen and perpetuate that state. When you're in the state of confidence, you naturally think confident thoughts, speak confidently, and act with assurance, all of which reinforces your sense of confidence. When you're in the state of worry, you naturally focus on potential problems, speak about your concerns, and act cautiously, all of which reinforces your anxiety. This is why it's so important, and I cannot emphasize this enough, to catch yourself when you notice you're in an undesirable state. The longer you remain in a state, the more entrenched it becomes, and the more evidence you create to support it. But the moment you recognize what state you're in, you have the power to shift out of it. I want you to become a detective of your own consciousness. Throughout your day, ask yourself, what state am I in right now? Am I in the state of lack or abundance? Am I in the state of fear or faith? Am I in the state of struggle or ease? Just this awareness alone will begin to transform your experience. The recognition itself is powerful, my friends. Most people are so identified with their current state that they don't even realize they're in one. They think their worries, fears, or frustrations are just realistic responses to their situation. They say, I'm not in a state, I'm just being practical. But when you step back and observe yourself objectively, when you notice I'm in the state of worry, or I'm in the state of lack, or I'm in the state of feeling unworthy. You immediately create some distance between yourself and the state. You realize that the state is something you're experiencing, not something you are. This is the difference between being conscious and being unconscious. An unconscious person is completely identified with whatever state they happen to be in. They are their anger, they are their fear, they are their loneliness. They have no awareness that there's a chooser behind the choice, an observer behind the observation. A conscious person recognizes that they are not their states, they are the awareness that can observe and choose states. They understand what Jesus meant when he said, "In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." He had transcended identification with external conditions. This recognition, I tell you, is the beginning of freedom. Once you recognize what state you're in, you can begin to deliberately shift into a more desirable state. But how do you do this? How do you move from one state to another? The key, and listen to this carefully, is not to fight against the undesirable state. What you resist persists. Resistance only strengthens what you resist. Instead, you gently redirect your attention toward the state you prefer. Think of states like rooms in a house. If you're in the worry room and you want to be in the confidence room, you don't have to fight your way out or destroy the worry room. The worry room will always be there. It's part of the house of consciousness. You simply walk out of one room and into the other. You shift your attention from the thoughts, feelings, and assumptions of worry to the thoughts, feelings, and assumptions of confidence. This shift often begins with a simple question: how would I think, feel, and act if I were in the state I desire? If you want to experience being loved, ask yourself, how does a beloved person think? What do they expect from others? How do they carry themselves? What assumptions do they make about their worthiness? Then begin to think those thoughts, feel those feelings, and make those assumptions. If you want to be healthy, don't focus on the illness. Focus on how a healthy person feels, thinks, and moves through the world. If you want to be prosperous, don't dwell on lack. Inhabit the consciousness of someone for whom abundance is natural and normal. At first, this might feel artificial or forced. Your logical mind might protest that you're just pretending or lying to yourself. This is ridiculous, it will say. You can't just pretend to be successful when you're clearly struggling. But remember this truth: every state feels natural when you're in it, and artificial when you're not. When you're in the state of confidence, confidence feels completely natural and doubt seems foreign. When you're in the state of doubt, doubt feels reasonable and confidence seems foolish. The goal is not to convince your mind that the new state is true. The goal is to inhabit it fully enough that it becomes your natural way of being. You're not pretending, you're remembering. You're returning to your natural state as the operant power of your own experience. Now, here's something remarkable that I want you to understand. States are contagious. When you're genuinely in a state of joy, others around you tend to feel more joyful. When you're in a state of peace, others feel more peaceful in your presence. When you're in a state of love, others feel more loving. This is not because you're doing anything to them. It's because states of consciousness radiate outward and influence the entire field of experience around them. Have you ever been in a bad mood and then spent time with someone who was genuinely happy and peaceful? If they were truly centered in that state, not just putting on a facade, you probably found your mood shifting. Their state of consciousness was broadcasting a different frequency, and your consciousness began to tune into that frequency. This is why changing yourself truly does change your world. It's not just metaphysical theory. It's practical reality. When you shift into a different state of consciousness, you literally become a different person. And the world must respond to this new person accordingly. The same situations that used to trigger worry might now trigger creative solutions. The same people who used to annoy you might now seem endearing. The same challenges that used to overwhelm you might now seem like exciting opportunities. I remember a businessman who came to my lectures. He was constantly frustrated with his employees, always complaining that they were lazy and incompetent. "Neville," he said, "you can't change human nature. Some people are just naturally unmotivated." I said to him, "The problem isn't with your employees. The problem is with the state you're in when you think about them. You're living in the state of the frustrated boss with lazy employees. As long as you maintain that state, that's exactly what you'll experience." He was skeptical, but he agreed to try an experiment. For 1 month, he would live in the state of a leader who was blessed with dedicated, capable employees. Every morning before work, he would sit quietly and feel grateful for his wonderful team. He would imagine them being creative, enthusiastic, and productive. He would see them as the kinds of people any company would be thrilled to have. The results were remarkable. Within weeks, his employees began behaving differently. They started coming to him with ideas. They took more initiative. They seemed more engaged and energetic. Had the employees changed, or had his state of consciousness changed, causing him to see and evoke different qualities in the same people? But sustaining a new state requires practice and persistence. Old states have momentum. They're familiar grooves in consciousness that you've traveled many times. New states feel unfamiliar at first, like paths through unmapped territory. It's natural for consciousness to want to return to familiar states even if they're undesirable. This is why people often sabotage their own success or find themselves repeating the same patterns over and over again. Your consciousness is like a river that has been flowing in a particular direction for years. To redirect that river requires consistent effort until the new channel becomes deeper than the old one. But once the new path is established, the water flows there naturally. The secret to maintaining a new state is to live from it consistently, even when external evidence seems to contradict it. If you're cultivating the state of being successful, you must maintain that state even when your current circumstances look unsuccessful. If you're embodying the state of being loved, you must stay in that state even when people around you seem cold or distant. This is not denial or self-deception. This is conscious creation in action. You are not ignoring reality. You are choosing which reality to make real. Remember, there are infinite possible realities, infinite possible versions of your story. The one that becomes real is the one you consistently assume to be true. This requires what I call living by faith, not by sight. Faith is not blind belief. Faith is the ability to feel the reality of your desire before it appears in the world of form. It's the ability to be in the state of having what you want before you have it physically. Remember this well. Your external world is always reflecting back to you the state you've been consistently occupying. If you've been in the state of struggle for months or years, your world is currently reflecting that struggle. But the moment you shift into a new state and maintain it consistently, your external world must begin to shift as well. The change might not be immediate. Old patterns have momentum and take time to dissolve, but change is inevitable when you persistently maintain a new state of consciousness. It's like planting a seed. You don't see the plant immediately, but if you water it consistently and give it sunlight, it must eventually break through the soil. I want to tell you about a woman who understood this perfectly. She was diagnosed with a serious illness and given 6 months to live. Instead of accepting that prognosis, she decided to live in the state of perfect health. Every morning she would spend time feeling grateful for her strong, healthy body. She would imagine herself 5 years in the future, vibrant and energetic. She would think the thoughts and feel the feelings of someone in perfect health. Her doctors thought she was delusional. Her family worried she wasn't facing reality. But she persisted in her state. 6 months passed, then a year, then 2 years. When they tested her again, they found no trace of the illness. The doctors called it a miracle. But she knew it was simply consciousness expressing as form. This is the great secret that mystics and masters throughout history have tried to convey. As Jesus said, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." Notice he didn't say, believe that you will receive it someday if you're good enough. He said, believe that you have received it. Present tense, right now. You see, you are not at the mercy of external circumstances, because external circumstances are at the mercy of your consciousness. You are not the victim of your states, you are the chooser of your states. Every moment offers you the opportunity to consciously select the state that will create the life you desire. But here's what most people don't understand. You're already doing this perfectly. Right now in this moment, your current life is the perfect reflection of the states you've been habitually occupying. Your relationships reflect the state of consciousness you hold about love and connection. Your health reflects the state of consciousness you hold about your body. Your finances reflect the state of consciousness you hold about abundance and worthiness. The question isn't whether this works. It's always working. The question is whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. Are you deliberately choosing your states, or are you letting them be chosen for you by circumstances, other people, the media, your past experiences. Your states of consciousness, my friends, are the seeds of your future experiences. Plant seeds of confidence, and you'll harvest evidence of your capability. Plant seeds of love, and you'll harvest loving relationships. Plant seeds of abundance, and you'll harvest prosperity in all its forms. Plant seeds of gratitude, and you'll harvest countless blessings to be grateful for. The law is exact, impersonal, and unfailingly faithful. It doesn't judge whether you deserve what you're asking for. It doesn't decide whether your desires are appropriate or realistic. It simply says yes to whatever state you consistently maintain. Whatever state you consistently occupy, that state must manifest as your lived experience. This is both the most empowering and the most sobering truth you'll ever encounter. Empowering because it means you have absolute creative control over your experience. Sobering because it means you're responsible for everything in your life. Not because you consciously chose it, but because some aspect of your consciousness created it. But don't let this burden you with guilt or self-blame. Most of your current states were programmed into you before you were even aware you had a choice. Your family, your culture, your education, your experiences all contributed to the states you learned to inhabit automatically. You're not to blame for what you didn't know. But now that you know, you are responsible, able to respond differently. So tonight, as you leave here, I want you to understand this. The question is not whether you're in a state you always are. The question is not whether your states are creating your reality. They always do. The only question that matters is which states will you consciously choose to inhabit? Which seeds will you plant in the garden of your consciousness? Which radio station will you tune into? You are the master of your states, and your states are the masters of your world. Choose them wisely, inhabit them fully, and watch as your entire reality transforms to match the consciousness you've chosen to embody. You are not a victim of your states. You are their creator, their director, and their conscious inhabitant. In every moment, you have the power to shift. In every breath, you can choose anew. Your next state of consciousness is always just a thought, a feeling, a decision away. The only question that remains is who will you choose to be? Will you choose to be the person who waits for conditions to change before allowing yourself to feel different? Or will you be the person who changes their inner condition and watches the outer world transform accordingly? Will you choose to be at the mercy of circumstances, other people's moods and external events? Or will you be the conscious creator of your own experience? Will you choose to live from the states that were programmed into you by others? Or will you consciously select the states that serve your highest vision of yourself and your life? The choice, as always, is yours. But remember this, not choosing is also a choice. Remaining unconscious is also a decision. Living by default is still living by design, just not your own design. Tonight I invite you to become the conscious architect of your own states of consciousness. I invite you to recognize the incredible power you possess, the power to transform your entire world by transforming the way you hold yourself in consciousness. As I always tell you, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Tonight I say to you, assume the state of your desire, and persist in that assumption until it hardens into fact. Your persistence will be rewarded. Your faith will be honored. Your consciousness will express itself as the life you've dared to imagine. The power is within you. It has always been within you. You are the operant power. You are consciousness itself, playing at being human, temporarily forgetting your own creative authority. But now you remember. Now you know. Now you can choose. Go forth and create consciously. Assume the state of your dreams, and live from that assumption until it becomes your reality. The world is waiting to conform to your consciousness. The only question is, what consciousness will you give it to conform to? Thank you. And good evening. This is Best of Lectures YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.